Buckle up, everyone, because today we're going way back in time.
Way back.
To the late 1800s.
Oh.
For a deep dive into...
Well, the very first.
The OG UFO sightings.
Yes.
Airships.
Airships before airplanes.
Yeah. Long before the Wright brothers, we're talking 1896, 1897.
That's right.
People all across America, they're seeing these strange flying machines.
Thousands of sightings.
Thousands.
Those ones across the country.
People are describing them like in detail.
Cigar-shaped?
Bright lights.
Propellers.
Some even said they talked to the pilots.
Imagine that.
I know.
Huh?
So are these just tall tales or...
I mean, think about it. This is a time of incredible invention and innovation.
It was.
Telephones, X-rays, electric lights.
It all seemed possible back then.
Exactly. So maybe flying machines, well, they weren't so far-fetched.
Right. So let's rewind to the very beginning, the first sighting.
November 17th, 1896.
Sacramento, California.
Witnesses saw this bright light moving across the sky. One even claimed to hear voices coming from the craft like they were giving commands.
That's crazy. So they described it as...
Large-shaped.
With a bright light.
And some said it had wings.
Yeah, and that's where it gets interesting.
Oh.
Because there were airships before this.
Like hot air balloons?
No, I mean actual airships. Like Solomon Andrews had the Arion back in 1863.
Wow.
And Frederick Marriott built the Aviator Hermes Jr. in 1869.
Okay, but those weren't...
They weren't like these massive things people were seeing.
So these sightings, were they just people misinterpreting what they saw?
Maybe, but then there's the detail about those voices.
True.
So things start to spread eastward, and the descriptions, they become more detailed.
Okay.
People start talking about wheels, propellers, even some saying the airships were powered by, well, get this, bicycle-like contraptions.
Bicycles. Now that's just...
I know it sounds crazy, right? But newspapers were publishing illustrations based on what people were reporting.
Yeah, it really captured everyone's imagination, didn't it?
It did. I mean, you know, kind of like a Jules Verne novel come to life.
Exactly.
Speaking of novels, those Frank Reed stories with the flying machines, were they popular then?
Extremely.
Do you think maybe people were getting influenced by those fictional accounts?
It's possible, but then you have cases like Colonel H.G. Shaw.
Oh, yeah.
In Stockton, California.
What happened to him?
Just days after that first sighting, he claims he runs into a landed spacecraft.
Right.
And it gets weirder. There were these three beings.
Bees, like...
7 feet tall, slender.
Oh, wow.
And get this, they tried to kidnap him.
Kidnap him? Are you serious? Like an alien abduction?
That's one of the first stories we have like that.
Really? So what did he think they were?
Martians.
Martians in California trying to abduct people. This is 1896, right?
That's right.
This is wild. So the media... How did they react to all of this?
Oh, it was a frenzy, complete frenzy. Headlines everywhere, people debating the unquestionable truthfulness of all these witnesses.
Were there any folks claiming to be behind the airships?
Well, there's George D. Collins.
Who was he?
A lawyer from San Francisco.
Okay.
And he said he represented the airship inventor.
He did.
Said his client was this wealthy guy who'd been working on it for years.
So like a secret project.
Right, but Collins... He kind of backed off later and disappeared.
Probably too much attention.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
Anyone else come forward?
Yeah, we have William Henry Harrison Hart, former Attorney General of California.
Wow, pretty important guy.
Yeah, and he also claimed to represent the inventor, but his story was even wilder.
Wilder how?
He said there were 2 airships.
2.
And one of them was getting ready to bomb Havana, Cuba.
Oh, wow. Okay, so we've got crazy stories.
We do.
We've got media hype and these alleged representatives. It's like a real-life mystery novel.
It really is.
So was any of it ever proven?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? We have all these stories and newspaper articles, but there's no hard evidence to prove it all.
So what were people really seeing?
It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It really does.
Hoaxes. Mass hysteria. Yeah. Or something truly incredible.
I guess we'll have to keep digging to find out.
We will. So as we move into 1897, things start to, well, they escalate.
Escalate how?
The sightings, they become even more frequent. And the stories, well, let's just say, they get a little stranger.
Okay, spill the beans. What are we talking about here?
Think of it like the airships conquer the West, and then they set their sights on the East.
Oh, I see. So now we're in...
The Midwest, yeah.
Okay.
Omaha, Kansas, Texas, even Michigan.
So sightings everywhere.
Everywhere.
Wow, were the newspapers still going crazy?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they were having a field day with this.
I've heard.
Some reports even claim to see entire families waving from the airships.
Families? Really? Like the whole crew was out for a joyride?
It seems that way.
That's wild. And were there any other details like that?
Oh, yeah. Some describe seeing crews working on the decks.
Crews, like doing repairs and stuff?
It seems so.
So, out of all these stories, which one really sticks out to you?
Well, there's one that always gets me. It's the Aurora, Texas crash.
Aurora, Texas. What happened there?
It was April 17th, 1897.
Okay.
And the Dallas Morning News, they reported that an airship, well, it collided with a windmill.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it crashed.
Was anyone hurt?
Well, that's where it gets interesting.
Okay, I'm listening.
They claimed the pilot was dead.
Oh, that's terrible.
And, well, not of this world, they said.
Wait, not of this world? What does that even mean? Are we talking aliens here?
It sounds like it, right?
That's insane. A non-human pilot crashing in Texas. It's like something out of a movie.
I know, it's pretty wild.
So is there more to the story? Did they find anything at the crash site?
Well, the article, it mentions hieroglyphics.
Hieroglyphics. On the wreckage.
Yeah, and metal, unlike anything they'd seen before.
That's pretty specific. So what happened to the pilot? Did they, I don't know, examine the body or something?
The report said they gave the pilot a Christian burial in the town cemetery.
A Christian burial for a, well, a being, not of this world. That's something else.
It is, isn't it?
So did anyone ever try to find this grave?
They did, but no luck.
Nothing.
No wreckage, no grave, nothing.
Wow. So was it all a hoax then? Like maybe to get Aurora, Texas on the map?
Some people think so, like a way to boost the town's economy.
Or maybe it really was a mystery.
Right. We may never know for sure.
I guess not. But hold on. We were talking about a nude couple from Mars earlier.
Oh, yeah. How could I forget that one?
Right. Remind me, what were the details again?
So this was in Springfield, Missouri.
Okay.
Same month as the Aurora crash, April 1897.
Okay, yeah.
A man named W.H. Hopkins, he claims he saw a landed airship with a nude man and woman on board.
A nude couple on an airship. This is getting weirder and weirder.
Right. And when he asked them where they were from,
yeah, what happened?
they pointed upwards and said something that sounded like Mars.
Mars. So we've got a potential Martian crash in Texas and now a nude Martian couple in Missouri.
That's a lot to take in, I know.
It is. It's like the stories are just getting more and more outlandish.
They are.
Were there any other, peculiar encounters from this time?
There were actually several reports about encounters with the airship crews.
With the crews?
Yeah.
What kind of encounters are we talking about here?
Well, there's this one from Illinois.
Okay.
During the lead up to the Spanish-American War, a witness claimed an airship pilot told him that they were headed to Cuba to use their, and I quote, Hotchkiss gun to kill Spaniards.
Well, that's a pretty bold statement.
It is.
Any others?
Oh, yeah. Another story from Texas. This one involves 3 men who run into an airship.
Okay.
And on board are 5 peculiarly dressed men.
Peculiarly dressed? How so?
Well, they claim to be descendants of the lost tribes of Israel.
The lost tribes of Israel. On an airship. This is unbelievable.
I know, right?
And how did they learn English?
They said they learned it from the 1553 North Pole expedition.
The one led by Hugh Willoughby.
That's the one.
Wow, okay, so we've got all these crazy stories, Martians, lost tribes. It's like a magnet for the bizarre.
It really is.
But was anyone trying to explain this in a more, rational way? Like maybe some secret inventors who were just way ahead of their time?
Oh, there were theories about that for sure.
Like
Thomas Edison was a popular suspect.
Edison? Really?
He denied it, though.
Of course he did.
But others pointed to people like Samuel P. Langley.
Oh, the aviation pioneer.
Yeah, he successfully flew an unpiloted steam-powered aircraft in 1896.
Okay, so maybe some people genuinely believed these airships were just, really advanced human technology.
It's possible.
So were there any theories about specific inventors? Or maybe even groups of people?
Well, there are a few that are pretty interesting.
I'm all ears.
There's Michael Busby. He wrote a book called Solving the 1897 Airship Mystery.
Okay.
And he argues that there were actually 3 separate airships operating in Texas.
3?
Built by this secretive group in Iowa.
A secret group in Iowa?
Yeah, he based all of this on flight paths and airspeeds reported by newspapers at the time.
So not just one lone inventor, but a whole team.
That's what Busby's research suggests.
Oh, that's pretty impressive.
And then there's J. Allen Danelek. He's got another theory.
What's that?
In his book, The Great Airship of 1897, He argues that the airship was a prototype for a commercial passenger airship.
A passenger airship? Back then?
I know it sounds crazy, right?
It does. But I guess if they had the technology.
He even gets into the technical details, outlining how it could have been built with the materials and technology they had available in 1896.
Wow, a passenger airship. That's pretty ambitious for the late 19th century.
It is, but Danelek makes a compelling case.
So, do these theories try to explain any of the weirder stuff? Like the aliens and all that?
Not really, but they do offer a different perspective on the airship mystery.
Okay, I see what you mean.
They suggest that some of these sightings, maybe they were just remarkable feats of engineering, kept secret to protect the inventors.
Secret inventors, mysterious crashes, Martians, lost tribes. It's like peeling back layers of an onion, each one more intriguing than the last.
It really is.
So, with all these stories and theories flying around, how do we even begin to separate fact from fiction?
That's the challenge, isn't it?
It is, but it's a challenge I'm ready to tackle.
Me too. So let's dive in and try to make sense of this enduring enigma.
Okay, so we've heard a lot. Crashes, kidnappings, those strange beings,
right?
Secret inventors, even the lost tribes of Israel. It's a lot to process.
It is, but it really speaks to our fascination with the unknown, doesn't it? Like, what if there's technology out there that we can't even imagine?
It's true, and thinking about it, it was a time of a lot of anxiety, too.
It was.
I mean, the new century was coming. There was the threat of war, all this rapid change.
And these airships, they kind of became a symbol of all that.
Like a blank canvas for people's hopes and fears.
Exactly.
So with all these different accounts, all these theories, how do we separate fact from fiction? How do we figure out what really happened?
Well, we have to look at the evidence, but we have to do it carefully.
Carefully how?
We need to consider the context, where these stories come from, and, the fact that people might exaggerate or misinterpret things.
So where do we start? What are some of the, I guess, more plausible explanations?
Well, some sightings could just be misidentifications.
Misidentifications? Like what?
Think about it. In the late 1800s, people weren't used to seeing airplanes or weather balloons.
True.
They might have seen a planet or a star and thought it was an airship, especially early on.
That makes sense. And, wasn't that the era of yellow journalism?
It was.
Where newspapers would, well, they'd sensationalize things to sell more papers.
Right. So some of those stories might have been, let's say, embellished a bit.
To get people talking, to sell more papers.
Exactly.
Okay, that could explain some of the crazier reports. But what about the ones that seem more, I don't know, credible? The ones with multiple witnesses, detailed descriptions. What about those?
Well, that's where those theories about secret inventors and prototype airships become really interesting.
Okay, tell me more.
What if there were people, maybe even groups of inventors, who were experimenting with flight in secret years before the Wright brothers?
I mean, it's possible, right?
And think about that passenger airship idea.
It does seem pretty ambitious for that time.
It does, but remember, this was a time of incredible invention.
The telephone, the car, the electric light.
All these things that changed the world.
So maybe a flying machine wasn't that far-fetched.
Exactly. It was a time when anything seemed possible.
It's fascinating to think that there might have been these brilliant minds working in secret, pushing the boundaries of technology.
It is, but what about the other stuff? The Martians, the encounters with beings from other worlds, where did those fit in?
It's a good question. It's like the airship mystery overlaps with, I don't know, folklore, mythology, that human need to explain the unexplained.
Right, and maybe some witnesses, caught up in all the excitement, they added their own interpretations to what they saw.
So they saw something real, but then they interpreted it through the lens of their own beliefs.
Exactly, and don't forget, the idea of extraterrestrial life wasn't new in the late 1800s.
You're right. I mean, H.G. Wells wrote War of the Worlds just a few years later.
Exactly. So this airship mystery, it wasn't happening in a vacuum. It was part of this bigger cultural shift, this fascination with technology, with progress, with the universe.
It really makes you think.
It does. It's a reminder that even with all our advancements, there are still mysteries out there.
Mysteries that continue to fascinate us.
Absolutely. Mysteries that remind us to stay curious, to question what we think we know, and to be open to the extraordinary.
Because sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction.
The truth was here.